Hi everybody, this is Pam with Jesusjunkjournals, and I'm going to go on with my Luke journal. So here are the pages, everything's dry, and so all the pages have something on the back of them. And I was just going to stop for a second and say that, you know, with all my different kits, I pretty much start the same way, and I show these techniques like, you know, stenciling and jelly plate and decoupage and all those things in case there are new people, because there are so many new people that haven't done this before. So if you've done this for a long time and that's old hat and you're like, get on with it. As these videos go on, you might want to go on further into the series, because I do come to the part where you're doing maybe some things that I've designed a special format and you're wondering like, what is this for? So eventually we come to those pieces and parts, but for the first few videos I do these kind of technique videos. And so I'm going to do decoupage today, and I always kind of talk about it as if you've never done it before, so that's what we're going to do today. So I use, actually it's Mod Podge if you buy Mod Podge, but I make my own. And so to make your own Mod Podge, it's a lot cheaper, of course. You do 2 parts white glue and 1/3 water, and it's the same thing as Mod Podge. So I'm going to do that, and then of course the thing we love to use is napkins, and you can get napkins. I have a lot of napkins, and I got a lot of them at Tuesday Morning before Tuesday Morning went out of business. I also got quite a few from Etsy, because you can get them on Etsy. They're more expensive, of course, but you can get where you only get like maybe 1 or 2 of every design, which is great, because when I was buying them at the store, you get a whole package of the same napkin and you really don't maybe want to use that many of the same designs. So it's kind of, in a way, I like the Etsy way of doing it better. And then what I do, and I'll show you with a new napkin in case you've never done it. So here's a new napkin. So you unfold them, and napkins have sometimes 2 layers, sometimes 3 layers of extra paper. So to get those pulled apart, you use a piece of tape, and you can use masking tape or Scotch tape or washi tape, and you just stick it to the napkin and tear it, and it will take the first layer off. And then you can tell, now this one I can tell by feeling it's super thin that that's it, there's just that one layer. So now I'm down to the actual tissue with the design on it. This you can save, and you can use it to make a texture. Like if you take the Mod Podge and then you get it really wet with Mod Podge and you wrinkle it up, you can create like a leather kind of texture, and it's fun to do that. So there's a lot of things you can do with those. I have a whole bag of them, so I'm not going to save that one. Let me see if I can find one. This feels like a heavier napkin. So I just want to show you, because you absolutely do not want to decoupage with the napkin if you haven't gotten all the back paper pulled off, because it doesn't look nice, and it kind of wrinkle. It's not nice. So this one I'm pretty sure has another layer. So I'm just take just same piece of tape, and yeah. So there's 2 layers on this one. So when you usually on these, when there's 3 layers, you want to be kind of careful with this last layer, because it's a little more delicate for some reason. When they have 3 layers, it's sticking to the design a little more. And there you go, you've got your last very thin piece of tissue. Because when you decoupage, the background kind of melts away and looks invisible. And if you have that extra layer of tissue paper, it doesn't do that. It won't do as well. The other thing I was going to tell you is, you know, this whole thing about I'm trying to get something on the white background, just to have a starting place. Well, in the add-on kit, there are some sheets that I also, before I cut them out, I go and I do something on the back of them and then cut them out. just to save some time. So I went through the kit, and like this would be one because they're pretty large, and so I think it's easier to just maybe do something on the back before I cut them out. This page with 2 tags, same thing. This page, you know, would be another one. This page, this strip here, I think I'll do something on the back of it because that's a pretty, I mean, it's half of a piece of paper. And this one. So I'm going to pull those out, and I'm going to, I won't do those on a video, but I just know that I'm going to work on those ahead of time before I cut them out, just to save time. Okay, so what I'm going to do, when I use my napkins, I save what's left and I put them in a folder, file folder, like this, just to sort of keep them in order. And so then I can go back through, and I've got all these different pieces and parts that I can use. And there's tissue paper here too, and some of the napkins I haven't even pulled apart. So anyway, that's the way I do mine. There's, you know, lots of people do it different ways, but that's what I do. So I'm going to lay this over here. The other thing, when you decoupage, try, and I'm going to try today, to always look and see which way is right side up. Because I can't tell you how many times I've decoupaged a bird or something like that, and then it's upside down. So you do want to pay attention to which way you're doing things. So I did a little stenciling, not a whole lot on this one. So here's a napkin. I need a small brush. So this is a brush I use for my Mod Podge. And just know that if you use a brush with your Mod Podge and it dries up, it's fine, because you can put it back in water and it'll wake up and you can always use it. So don't panic if it looks all hard and you think you've ruined your brush. You haven't. So I keep that specific brush just for the Mod Podge. But I'm going to take a small brush and get some water. I don't have a sink up here, so I bring these jugs of coffee creamer that I fill up with water and bring them upstairs to get a design. So you can see this napkin is one of those rectangular kind, you know, so the design is like this. And so to get the design that you want, you take a brush with water and you just kind of paint around it, and this will give you a nice feathered edge when you pull it apart. I'll show you here in just a minute. So I'm going to go just pull it like this, and it gives you this great, if you cut it, it just looks so abrupt. It doesn't look nearly as nice. So you just pull it out like that. And so I just take my Mod Podge, and I'll put it over here on this edge. And I haven't trimmed the borders yet, so I'm kind of thinking about that. I'm going to move this over just slightly so that when I trim it, it'll still be. So you lay down your tissue paper, and then you start in the center and you brush it out kind of like a sun ray from the center out. And very carefully take your time. I get in a rush and it will I usually end up tearing my tissue, which is fine. You don't have to have it perfect. But if you want it perfect, you want to take your time. And you just brush it out. Not too wet, but get all the wrinkles smoothed out that you can. There'll still be a few, because that's just kind of the nature of decoupage. And you don't want to get it too wet, because for one thing, the stencil is water activated. So if I get it wet, it'll start to bleed out. And also, if you super soak your paper, it will cause the ink in your print to start to kind of be soft. It won't be as crisp and it won't have as much detail. So that's something else to think about. Okay, so here's one. Don't think I want a monkey. I could do that bird. So I'm not super picky. I mean, you know, I'm not going to sit here and agonize over which one to decoupage. I'm just going to start putting things on that I like, and layering it. And if at the end of the day, if I get something on here that I don't like, I just glue a pocket over it or something else. You're going to have plenty of stuff to glue in, so it won't be a problem. This one's a little tricky. Got a lot of details around it, doesn't it? Uh-oh. Pulled his beak off. I'm going to put him right here. So I'm just kind of putting a little bit on this. I'm not getting it great because it soaks in through the top. So it's not as important that you put it underneath it. So now, if you decoupage, you need to decoupage over white or at least a light color, or it won't show. You can't do it over black, of course, or purple, dark colors. It won't show at all. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So let's see if I can get that to there, kind of lay the way I want it to. Now I haven't forgotten about the bird's beak. I'm going to try to save it and put it on there. See there where it tears? That's kind of what happens. So I'm going to come back over here. See if I can see it. Here it is. I'm going to try and glue that on. There. So, well, I'm going to just roll that up and take it off. Okay, so I got his beak sort of back where it belongs. All right, so I'll set that page aside. Okay, so again, make sure it's right side up. And so I've got some pinks, so let me see. I usually do small areas of decoupage, but I'm kind of thinking I might just put this whole thing in the middle. I like the colors, and I'm not even going to put glue under it, which I might regret. Well, we'll see, because it will soak through from the top, like I said. Well, maybe I should put some. Let me regroup here. When the tissue gets wet, it kind of like stretches, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of hair under here, just to give me a bit of a head start. Kind of pins it down, doesn't it? Okay, and then I'll put some up in here. So put that down. Okay, so I kind of got that crooked. I'm just going to go ahead and roll with it. It's pretty forgiving. As you can see, it just sprinkles and crinkles and does what it wants to do. Now, after this dries, you want to take a sand block like this, or a piece of sandpaper. You can even use an emery board like you file your fingernails with, and go over it and file down the layers that have stuck together where it's thick, because this will feel really stiff and it doesn't feel nice at all. But once you run sandpaper over it, it's so cool. It gets really soft and just has a great feel to it, a great tactile quality to it. when you do that. Okay, I'm losing my little butterfly here. Let me put a little bit more underneath. And see if I can sort of get this butterfly smoothed out. So you can see where I've stenciled, it comes through. The background just kind of disappears and melts, and you see whatever was behind it, which is the neat thing about decoupage. So any air pockets, I'm going back and seeing if there's anything needs to be smoothed out. Yeah, right there. It creates those wrinkles, which we will sand at the end. Okay, so there's that page, and I'll do one more. Okay, so right side. Got to watch out here. I've got glue now from doing several pages, so have to watch out for that. I kind of like this with this. So I'm going to just take part of it. And put that over here. And these cut edges, if you'll notice, I'm overlapping here because I know that I'm going to trim this white edge off. So I don't have to worry about having that cut edge showing, hopefully. If I do, I can always put a pocket or a piece of washi tape or something over it. So no big deal. Okay, and you can see, even though this had kind of a yellow background, it still becomes transparent enough that you can see that pattern shining through it here. And then do I have something to go on the daisy side? Well, I tell you what I can do. I've got this it's an old ad from a magazine that I got at a flea market. And I'm just gonna decoupage that on this page, I think, just so you can see that it will work for other things. Now, if you do something like this, you do have to get the glue under it because it's not going to soak through this paper. So I'm going to go ahead and put a good amount underneath it, and then just smooth it out with the brush like that. And you can see it starts to wrinkle once it gets wet. So you kind of want to stay on it for a little bit, smooth it out. Okay. All right, so that is decoupaging. Yeah, I can see some wrinkles on that. I'm going to let it go. I think it is what it is, and I'm just going to leave it alone. We're going to go on with the Luke journal, and what I'm going to do before I do too much is I'm going to start to trim the corners or the edges off of my pages. I'm going to ink them with my Vintage Photo Distress ink. This is Tim Holtz, and it's, if you don't know, this is kind of the mainstay of the junk journaling world. Most people do the edges of their papers and they use a dauber or there's different applicators, sponge, and you take it in. I'll show you real quick because I'm going to go ahead and do it off camera for the most part, but just go like that on the corners. Some people don't like very much ink. Some people like a lot of ink. I kind of like a lot of ink. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my pages out and ink them, and then I will be back. Okay, so I decided to come back on and talk about another thing, which is gel. Well, it's matte gel medium. It says regular gel matte. Matte just means that when it dries, it's going to be flat. It won't be shiny, which is what you want. I mean, most people want. And so matte medium, people are kind of, I wondered too, like, what is matte medium? Well, it's really just like glue. You use it, let me get, this is sort of my go-to. This is a silicone It's actually a hair dye applicator. Salon people use these to put color on people's hair. But it's silicone and it works really well for this. And so I was going to decoupage some of this heavier paper. And so instead of using, and you can use Mod Podge, it's so watery and it takes a lot and it doesn't glue as well. This is really, honestly, probably what it is really thick Mod Podge. I have a feeling, because it does the same thing and has the same properties and everything. It's just very thick. And so you can lay it down. And so I'm going to put this paper on here. I've already trimmed my pages, so I'm going to let it go over that. And then I'm going to actually go over it with this same matte gel, and it seals the paper so that if I put paint or anything over that, it's not going to soak in. It's sealed. Same as Mod Podge. If you do that with your Mod Podge, it seals your paper. Okay, so I just thought I've got this, I separate my scraps into like neutrals, and then I have like pinks and reds, and then I have one with blues and greens and purple. And so I'm just gonna look through and just pull out a few small pieces, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on this paper. And get it glued down. You want to be sure you get all your edges really well. So like that. And it dries clear just like Mod Podge does. I'm going to do several of my pages and maybe some of those large tags like that. And I won't be doing them all on camera. So I just wanted to let you know, so if you see my pages later on and they've got all this stuff on them, you'll be like, when did she do that? Well, I'm going to do it now. Of course, you can always do it later and as you go. And it might make more sense to do it later, because I honestly don't know what's going to be on this page. It could get, all this could get covered up. But since this is just my bucket of scraps, I don't really care, because they're just kind of one step away from going in the trash can anyway. Why not? So this is some really thick paper that I don't think the decoupage, I mean the Mod Podge would probably not work with this. That's pretty bold. I think I've got a straight edge. I don't like straight edges, so I'm gonna put the straight edge along the actual edge of the page. These applicators are nice because you can kind of scoot underneath if you don't get the glue on the paper. You can kind of go like that and put that paste under it after you've gotten it down. So I'm just going to go through with my scraps and do some of this. And so that's it for this video on decoupage, and we will move on to the next video and try some other things. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.